These are allegations made about something he did in 2001, before 9/11, before the Iraq War, before the 2008 financial crisis. British politics seems to me to be completely
You're saying it's not important?
Going down. I'm saying that there are things in the world so massive that the British Parliament and you, I'm afraid, are not dealing with, are not gripping.
And what is interesting is Labour MPs who a few days ago were saying, I'm not sure we really need to worry about this. One of them said to me, it's not a good atmosphere. They're saying the atmosphere has changed over the last 48 hours. There is now real momentum for action on Prince Andrew.
What action?
Well, what they're saying is the action is that he should not have what is regarded as a sweetheart deal for the Royal Lodge. Obviously, it's a legal contract. He's fulfilled the legal obligations, but there are question marks about that, which we were talking to Sarah about, because Ed Davey was talking about that. And down the line, if there's an investigation in what he said to his close protection officer about finding out information about Virginia Giuffre, if there's an adverse finding on that, then you're getting in. One senior parliamentarian said to me, that's when you get into the territory of legislation to take away his titles.
Why are you smiling like that, Rory Stewart?
I'm worried that we are in a state where there are unbelievable things happening in the world, where Trump is destroying the global order. These are allegations made about something he did in 2001, before 9/11, before the Iraq War, before the 2008 financial crisis. British politics seems to me to be completely
You're saying it's not important?
Going down. I'm saying that there are things in the world so massive that the British Parliament and you, I'm afraid, are not dealing with, are not gripping. Trump at the moment is destroying the world, and we have the whole of Parliament looking at an issue which is not Gaza, which is not Ukraine, which is not what's happening to the British economy. So it's absolutely important, and Parliament should be able to do other things, but I'm frankly very disappointed that a major news thing like Newsnight is focusing on this when we are right in the middle of chaos worldwide.
So just to come back to what Zack was saying earlier, this is an abuse of power. It's an abuse of power that is happening in our country, that parliamentarians in the UK Parliament have the powers to do something about. We have very little control over what Trump does, but this is important. The specific role that I think the Public Accounts Committee can play, that I am a senior member of, is the specific question about the rent he's paid or not paid on the Royal Lodge, and it is absolutely a legitimate course of inquiry for the Public Accounts Committee to ask, is this the best deal for taxpayers? That is our job, and if we we have the power, if we wish, to summon Prince Andrew to come and give evidence to us, so that we can find out more about that and that he gets the opportunity to put that on the record. That is absolutely us doing our job. I'm sorry you don't think it's important, Rory, but that is what we are there to do.
I'm not saying it's not important, but I'm saying it's very, very sad that issues like this are taking so much airtime, so much news time, so much parliamentary attention.
But it's precisely
when the government is not being held to accountable on much, much bigger issues.
It is precisely because, Rory, and again to go back to Zack's earlier point, because so much of this has been swept under the carpet earlier. Prince Andrew's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, because it hasn't been revealed to us before, the status of his residence in Royal Lodge, and now that it has emerged, it is really, really important that we get to the bottom of exactly what has happened. I'm speaking specifically about the Royal Lodge, the role that the Public Accounts Committee might play in that. But I'm sorry, it is important. I'm not denying there are other important things happening, but this is something that we legitimately have an interest in. It is absolutely our role to investigate.
I'm going to be very diplomatic and say I think you both have valid points. I think you can recognise that the climate crisis, the inequality in our society is the deepest problems that we're facing right now, and at the same time an abuse of power runs throughout all of those problems. And abuse of power, particularly for women, I think is something that needs investigating. The only other point I'd make more widely about the royal family is this idea of him paying rent seems quite odd to me. Like, what is he doing to earn that money to pay the rent? And I think we have a question about the monarchy.
He's not really paying rent. He's paid £1 million for the lease.
Sure.
The rent is peppercorn.
But does that mean, are they public servants, in which case we need more transparency and accountability about all of their financial affairs? Or are they effectively almost a private company or a tourist attraction, in which case that's a different set of questions too? And I think this runs quite deeply to who are the monarchy, and I think that is an important issue because that's about our democracy and who has often these obscure ways of vetoing legislation.
Yeah. Sarah Olney, will there be a majority of your Public Accounts Committee members who want to question Prince Andrew, who want to summon him?
We'll be meeting tomorrow morning, and I'm sure this will be top of our agenda.
Tell us what your sense is about your fellow members.
I've spoken to other members this evening, and I know that there is certainly a number of members of the committee. Important to point out, we're getting new members. One of our new members will be joining us tomorrow. Rupert Lowe has just joined the committee, so there will be new members who I haven't spoken to who will have potentially views on this. But it will be for the chair to decide, but he will obviously want to reflect the views of the committee, and he will also take account of the views of the House.
And what sort of questions would you want to ask somebody like Prince Andrew?
Well, I think it's very important to understand what is the basis on which he has been a resident at Royal Lodge. Our remit as a Public Accounts Committee is always to be looking to make sure that taxpayers are getting the best possible value. And so our question will be, it'll be for Prince Andrew, but also more widely for the Crown Estate. What arrangements were entered into, and are taxpayers getting the best possible value that they can out of those arrangements?
Right.
That will be the focus of our inquiry.
OK. You all right, Rory Stewart? You're looking at the floor.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are huge issues in the world, and I think it's very strange.
We can tackle those
coming
as well,
back
but it's
the Public Accounts Committee
to do the job that we're sent to Parliament to do.
Absolutely, you have many jobs to do in the Public Accounts Committee, but I think in the biggest use of the public accounts, there is a lease. The National Audit Office has looked at it.
20 years ago.
A lot of what we're talking about is stuff from 25 years ago.
I mean, well, on that point, in terms of history, Maggie Oliver, can you explain, if you would, why you believe it is important to potentially investigate alleged abuse that may have occurred 20 years ago?
In relation to Prince Andrew?
Just broadly speaking, I'm talking about historical allegations. Why is it still important that in 2025 somebody who alleges they were abused in 2001 should see justice one day?
Because I think that the damage caused by not only by the abuse but by the failures of the institutions to investigate has a lifelong consequence for every single victim, and they never are able to move on with their lives unless they feel that they have been heard and that justice has been sought and given. The damage is lifelong. So I don't think there are time limits on this. If the evidence is there, it is our job to follow the evidence and prosecute. That's my opinion.
OK. Where might this end up, Sarah Olney? I mean, for example, if you were to have Prince Andrew in front of you, which would be unprecedented, and you were questioning him, where does it end? I mean, would you want to then speak to King Charles about why he doesn't choose to pay inheritance tax? Where does it go?
We are speaking specifically about Prince Andrew. We are talking specifically about the terms of his residence at Royal Lodge. Ed Davey has asked in PMQs today whether the Prime Minister would support that investigation, and the Prime Minister has indicated that he would. So it's very clear we are talking about a very specific inquiry. And the Public Accounts Committee has the power to summon Prince Andrew to come and answer questions. And I think we will have questions for him. But we don't have the power to summon the King. Our power stops short of being able to summon the Crown.
A question of former parliamentarian and current parliamentarian and Nick, who's been covering Westminster for decades. What is this thing that the House of Commons doesn't debate or discuss the royal family? What is that about?
Well, there have been MPs this week who've wanted to sort of raise it in the formal setting, UQs and things like that, and that hasn't happened.
But what's the convention? Why is it not done?
The convention is that you don't discuss the monarch in Parliament.
Why?
And that's just the convention, and that would mean that if you wanted this legislation to strip Prince Andrew of his titles, Buckingham Palace would have to assent to that at the beginning and then would obviously have to sign it at the end.
What do you think of that, Zack?
I mean, it's deeply problematic, isn't it? I think you're doing a good job of presenting what the rules are, but also when you really lay that out in a coherent way, you can't hold people accountable because they have to give the permission, first of all, for them to be held accountable. I think in any structure you would say that's not going to work. And so I think we're in this interesting moment in politics, or generally in society, where we know there's a lot of support and love for the monarchy out there. We know that when Queen Elizabeth died, though, that did falter. I'm no supporter of a monarchy, and I think when people hear stories like this, I think this will create questions in the public about who are these people. Is it a symbolic role, or actually do they hold power over us, and how do they have so much power that they can decide what government can or can't talk about, or Parliament rather?
Let me just try to mount a defence. I think we are so lucky in Britain with our monarchy. And one of the reasons we're so lucky is they don't have this kind of power. They don't have Trumpian power. And at a moment where an American president is behaving like a kind of 18th century British king, it's so wonderful that we had the transition of power from Rishi Sunak to Keir Starmer, that politicians act like normal people, and that we project onto this symbolic constitutional monarch that doesn't really have significant power in our society those roles. And I think this stuff that's happening in the Vatican, what they've done on climate and the environment, is exactly what a head of state should be doing. And I think we've got a wonderful model. And I would be so sad if we got ourselves stuck in a world in which, we were getting into constitutional fights and stripping titles and doing all this stuff, and we throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We should be so lucky for what we've got.
OK, and I'm going to mount a defence of Newsnight, because we haven't talked about Prince Andrew or the royal family at all this year until this week, I think, really. We have covered.
And you got the right guess for it.
Yeah, we have covered world events, domestic events, you name it.